Advertising Week is celebrated, in a sense, all over the world, and not just here, Advertising and PR Week. And what we've agreed today is that I'm going to talk a little bit about getting into that world. So I am not a creative, and I'm not a digital person, and I'm not a statistical person or an analytics person. Most of my work in the agency world and in corporations has always been at the executive management level or in the new business area. So I'm kind of like an entrepreneur, manager, and sales guy. And you will see that as I talk about things. And what we've agreed to do today is to talk about the new world. So I'll talk a little bit about what's going on out there, what you might find when you go look for jobs. I have to keep remembering that this side just got filled in. Sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you guys. And I will talk a little bit about the world of startups. I'll try and get through this in a reasonable amount of time and leave some time for Q&A at the end. So, who are you? So 3 or 4 quick questions, okay? Show me hands. How many of you know that you want a career in advertising and PR? Okay? Next question. How many of you already have jobs lined up in this field? Nobody. I thought I'd get at least a couple. Okay. How many of you know you do not want a career in advertising and PR, but you're here anyway? Okay, a couple of you. And how many of you don't have a clue what you really want to do? There you go. Did I leave anybody out? Okay, so let me tell you something. I don't know how many of you read the New York Times. As you can tell, I'm a New Yorker, even though I went to school here. There's a columnist by the name of David Brooks who made this statement. He said, I'd like to have a college student come up to me and say, I really wanted to major in advertising and PR, but my parents forced me to major in medieval art. Now, the truth of the matter is that he actually said accounting. He didn't say advertising and PR. I want to stay true to quoting him properly. But the point's well taken. You got to be balanced, right? So you may have chosen this because this is what the rest of your life is going to be. You know you want to make advertising and PR. Or maybe you're not sure, but you think it might be right. But you think this is what the rest of your life's going to be like. Don't limit yourself to that. Be open, be flexible, be willing to change. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I was born and raised in New York City. Anybody know about Vidalia, Georgia? Oh, okay, good. So I ran a company in Vidalia, Georgia that made men's pants. I went into the corporate film and TV business from there, and then I found myself in the digital advertising world. If you had said to me when I was here, majoring in corporate finance, that I would end up in advertising and PR, I would have thought you were crazy. The idea here is be open. You don't know where you're going to end up. Take all your lessons as you get them here in school, as you get them from your first jobs. Add them all to the mass of your experience and your knowledge, and then do the things that work best for you. So here's something personal about me, because I figured all business is dull. My wife and I do a semi-annual movie marathon twice a year. We turn off the world, and we go to the movies the Friday after Thanksgiving and the Friday before Memorial Day, and we see as many movies as we can in one day. The most we've ever seen in one day is 7, and we did that before all the multiplexes. We only did that once. Typically we see from 4 to 6. And this Thanksgiving, the Friday after Thanksgiving, is our 50th semi-annual movie marathon. And so we've invited friends to come join us for movies. We usually say, no, you can't come. This is our day. So everybody's celebrating with us this year. Okay. So I'm a little nuts, yes. All right. What happens after the University of Georgia? This is something that you obviously want to know about. I can give you some things to think about. I can't give you definitive answers. I don't know the answers. I have experience. I have more experience than you have. I had the same amount of experience when I was here that you have now, and I've added to my field of experience over time. And I will tell you, based on my experience, based on the years I've been in all kinds of different businesses, based on the things I've seen happen, and the things I'm reading about and learning now, what I think is going to happen, and what I think you should do. Stay true to yourself. That will be a mantra I'll use throughout this presentation. You want to take all this kind of information and use it when you can. Most of you are taking classes in advertising, PR, communications, skills, building skills in those areas. In today's business world, those three areas which used to be distinctly different from each other are now blurred together. There's overlap. There are specific skills to learn in each area, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't go to class. You should. You should learn the things that are being taught to you. But recognize that being diverse and being aware. I was talking with the faculty over lunch today, and the words came out of my mouth that I think I could use right here, which is think about the customer, think about the client, think about the user, think about the needs of the other person, and then apply the discipline that will deliver the result. Don't go out as a PR professional to deliver PR. Don't go out as an advertising professional to deliver advertising. Go out in the world to bring solutions to people who need help. That make sense? I get a few nodded heads. I got to figure out some way to get you guys involved in this. Okay. So what factors does Joseph think will impact advertising and PR as we go forward? Privacy. How many of you are worried about your privacy in today's digital world? Not as many as I thought. I thought every hand would go up. Okay. Consumer activism, that's you being an active consumer. How often do you have a thought that you wish somebody weren't giving that thing to you because you could do it better? Nobody? Oh, you guys need to meet my daughter. Okay. There you go. But there are a lot of people out there today who are saying, let's do it ourselves. We don't need agencies to deliver messages to us. We can get the information we need. We can create the ads. We can do user-generated content as a user, and we can get it done better ourselves. Artificial intelligence is coming down the pathway, and it's coming fast. We often go look for stuff, right? We go Google search, or we do research somewhere or somehow, because we're looking to get some information. Could be the weather report, could be homework assignment, could be filling a need for a client. But pretty soon, based on artificial intelligence, and it's not just for science fiction geeks like me, pretty soon artificial intelligence is going to turn your phone on, and your phone is going to say things like, Joseph, what you need to do right now is this. Or, Joseph, given where you are now, you should know this. And it won't wait for me to run a Google search. Think about that when you think about your future in the world of business. I mentioned user-generated content. How many know the term big data? Few of you. Do me a favor, next time I ask for hands up. Let me see the hands. Okay. Big data is very important. It's about getting massive amounts of data so that you can parse it and slice it and dice it in a million different ways and apply it to a million different things and learn things. That's not bad. That's a good thing. But what you want to do with that data is not treat it as though it knows everything better than you do. So if the data says do something and your mind says to you, no, do something else, use that. Trust yourself. Do a different analysis. Look a different way. Or sometimes reject the data and go for it. Steve Jobs was famous for that, right? He knew what he knew. He didn't want research. He just knew. He said, this is what we're going to do. We will do the best possible thing, and the market will find out that they want it. So data is important, but it's not the be-all and end-all. Relevance is the most important word to take away. Everything you put out has to be relevant, especially in this market. You, as consumers of what people like you will be putting out, know that you get hit with tons of stuff that's irrelevant all the time. And you want relevance. So you want to be in a position when you take a job and when you're doing work that will deliver relevance to the people who are getting whatever it is that you're putting out there. Anybody worry about being hacked? Hands. Okay. So security is critical. Think Think about careers in security. Think about how important is security. Think about how does security affect the ad that you're creating? How does security affect the campaign you're creating that asks people to put in their personal information? Don't ignore that and don't leave it to some other department. Think about all these issues. They're all important. And then I got this catch-all little thing. For all the stuff I didn't think about, new technology's coming down the pike. We know what we know today. We don't know tomorrow. I'm going to show you a little bit about that in a minute. Before I get to the future and those kinds, or the past, I should say, and those kinds of things, think that change is good. You want to know that change is good. Don't get stuck in what you're doing or what you like or what you think is working today, because tomorrow, maybe not. Be open to change all the time. Be willing to keep changing. Consistently take it. An opportunity knocks. Use it. Use it. You know Yogi Berra just died, right? So Yogi Berra is famous for the sign, when you come to the fork in the road, take it. Take it. Do something. Don't get stuck. Take opportunities and go. Okay, here. It's going to happen. Change is going to happen. Things are going to change very fast, faster than they've ever done before. Don't blink. There are lots of positions available. I'm going to show you something that I found fascinating about the kinds of positions that are available in advertising and PR. Here's a list of jobs in PR. I went and did some research just for this talk, and I found a very respected site on the web that listed possible jobs in PR. Any of these that jump out at you, make a mental note of it. Here's the same list from the same provider for jobs in advertising and communications and marketing. See if any of those jump out at you. And then I ask you this: what was missing? Anybody notice anything missing? So there were two very long lists there, right? So if I had been looking for a job in advertising, PR, or marketing, I might have said, wow, okay, so from this long list, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in this, and I'll apply for jobs in those areas, or I'll do research for jobs in those areas. But I'm going to point out to you that what was fascinating to me, I noticed that there was no mention of sales or business development, no mention of account management, no mention of programming in any of those lists, no mention of technology as a job, and no mention, just to pick one for example, interaction designers. Anybody know what an interaction designer is? I figured. I didn't get a single hand. So an interaction designer is a very important job in a digital agency. And you don't even know exists. So do your homework. If you're interested, do your homework. Find out what's out there. Find out what people are looking for. Find out what people need in the way of their problem solved. And then look in that area to provide a solution. The things to consider are these. You guys can read. I'm not going to read through the list. Stay true to your interests. Do the things that turn you on. Consider whether you want to be in a small firm or a large firm. Do you want or need the structure of an organization? This will feed the discussion later about startups. My daughter, for example, is a writer. She travels all the time. Anywhere she's near, she takes clients with her, because anytime she's near Wi-Fi, she can work. She gets a marketing assignment. By the way, she never studied marketing or advertising. She studied women's issues and Arabic at Emory. But she has to pay her bills, and she loves to travel. So she travels all over. She's in Morocco this week, and she writes, and she keeps getting offered jobs. And she says, I'm not going to take a job. I said, Papa, I don't want to work in an office. She's very clear that she doesn't want to have to get up in the morning and go to the office and work. And she's serving her needs by structuring her work life to support her needs. So find the things that will turn you on, find the things that will work for you, and do that. Here's a quick look at the speed with which technology has ramped up. It's logometric. What's the word I'm looking for? Logarithmic. Thank you. I knew somebody would do it. It's logarithmic. So somebody tell me a technology that you're personally familiar with that doesn't exist anymore. Anybody? You think of something? I mean, I know I used to use a mimeograph machine, things like that. Nobody can think of any?
MP3 player?
Say it again?
MP3 player?
MP3 player. Okay, good.
Before the MP3 player, there was a mini disc.
Yes. Yes, a CD. You used to carry a mini disc player that you stuck a CD in. Okay, so there are a lot of those kinds of technologies that are not around anymore, right? How many of you have already tried a virtual reality headset? Anybody? Ah, good. Okay. The rest of you, get on the horn here. Find out what's going on. Try stuff. You're going to be mind-boggled at how fast you're surrounded by virtual reality. I predict it'll happen in the next 3 to 6 months. Watch for stuff that's happening and try and aim ahead of it's happening. What can I do? Oh, I love that virtual reality stuff. I want a job there. And find the area where it can really work for you. Any sci-fi fans in the audience? Anybody? A bunch of you, okay. I'm a real science fiction nerd. I love to read science fiction. And a lot of the stuff that I read about, I started reading science fiction when I was in high school. I graduated from here in 1965, so that's like back there with the dinosaurs. And a lot of the things that I read about have come true. They're already here. They're not fiction anymore. And the things I'm reading about today, some of them are going to happen soon, very soon, certainly in my lifetime. And some of them may not happen until I'm long gone. But if you see things happening and you see people talking about stuff today, don't dismiss it as fiction. Say to yourself, is there something I can do with that, for that, about that? Okay? So here's the quick timeline. I'm going to go through this quickly. Sputnik was in 1957. I graduated from here in 1965. By the way, when I was here at the school that was the business school before it was called Terry, I took a course in programming. It was an IBM 1401 machine with punch cards, and that was how we programmed. And we'd carry a stack of cards around with us, and if we dropped them and they got out of order, we were in deep doo-doo. So that was high tech in those days. Now granted, it sounds like forever ago to you, but it's not that long ago, given what we can do today. 1979, I had my mind boggled. I went to a conference in Lincoln, Nebraska, where they started talking about you can take a video and you can give control of what happens next in that video to the viewer. I went, oh my God, really? And that was the beginning for me of moving into the area of what was then called interactive. There was an MIT Media Lab project called the Aspen Project, which was the first time they had a car that drove up and down the streets in Aspen, Colorado, with 4 cameras on the roof, pointed in 4 different directions, north, south, east, and west. And they drove up and down the streets, and then they laid all that on the tracks of a video disc. And if you wanted to see any one of the views that were there, you'd push a button, and it would take a second or 2 or 3, and it would jump to a different track, and it would show you the view from that other camera. And I said, oh my, I don't have to watch it in the sequence that they do it. If he drives by that house and I want to see that house, I can push a button and see that. Wow! And that was when I got crazed about, and that wasn't so long ago either, but it's a while ago. So you notice the time gaps are getting shorter as we go. 1993, the World Wide Web code was made available free to everyone, and by the end of the year there were about 600 websites in the world. 600 in 1993. Oh, some people are already amazed, I can see by the looks. All right, it's happened pretty fast since then, right? 1998, somebody invented a company called Google. 1998. That's not when I was here in 1965. That's 1998. Here's the next one, 2004, Facebook. What's that? I can't do arithmetic. 11 years? Wow. Only 11 years. Seems like it's been around forever. Certainly for most of you, it's been around forever, right? YouTube in 2005. iPhone in 2007, wondering what social retailing is. I was at an agency in 2007 that took phones and RFID tags and the notion that we could share a shopping experience and called it social retailing. And in that year, Time magazine every year does the top 20 inventions of the year. I think it's 20. And we were in that issue with this concept because we had created, it was so, oh my God, it was so nothing compared to what you can do today. As I tell you about it, I'm amazed. And I think Time made a mistake putting the iPhone on the cover. They should have put us on the cover, but what can I tell you? But the iPhone was invented, so I had to throw that in there just for a little fun. 2007 was the iPhone was invented. The iPad was 2010. That's only 5 years ago. See how things are getting faster. In 2015, the iWatch. How many of you think the iWatch is dead? Oh, a couple of you. Okay. How many of you think the iWatch is the future? Oh, some of you don't. How many of you don't know? How many of you don't know what the iWatch is? All right, you do. Of course you do. I think it's dead, personally. You know, when I was a kid, I used to read Dick Tracy comics. And he wore a thing on his wrist where he could communicate with people. Talk about science fiction. Okay. So, that's how fast things are happening, and they're going to happen faster as we go forward. There's been a historical shift in style. My personal belief is that the future of business is virtual. People will run virtual companies, and workers will work virtually as we go forward, and that's something for you to think about. Conventional employment changes to freelance. I saw a survey that said 9 in 10 people, pretty much of your age group, said they would not take a traditional full-time job. I guess my daughter is in that 9. Now, is that true in the room? How many of you would not take a traditional job when you go out of school? Oh, okay, we reversed it here. Interesting, okay. Maybe I should go look at that research again. And freelance offers new flexibility. Some of the things that when you're working by yourself, you get to decide a lot about your own life. That's what Chloe, my daughter, likes the most about it. She can do what she wants when she wants to do it. She takes the assignments she wants when she wants to take them. This is fed by the freelance world, but it's also fed by the startup world. Because startup companies tend to be flexible in the ways that big companies don't. Big companies need structure. They need to predict. They need to make sure certain jobs get done. The managers at the top need to know that the work will get done at the bottom because of 2 promises they make. One to the customers and the other to the stockholders. So there's a lot more structure, and if you can work in that environment and be nurtured by it, it's great. This is interesting. I just had a thought while I'm standing here. I'm probably an anomaly because I worked in big companies. I worked in a company that had 9,000 employees, and the difference was that I didn't care. So I was just acting as though I were in a startup. And I told everybody what I thought when I told it to them, and I didn't worry. The worst thing could happen was they'd fire me. But I stayed true to myself. That's not usual, and most people don't operate like that. I will challenge you. If you can get to that place, it's really powerful. Yes, I took chances, and yes, sometimes people might have I might have skirted very close to getting fired, maybe. But I was staying true to myself. I was doing the work that I thought should be done rather than the work that everybody thought we should do because it was the right thing to do, even though we knew what the client wanted, we were going to push this other thing because we had these people on the bench and we needed to keep them busy. Yes, those kinds of conversations happen. Wasn't okay with me. It didn't stand up to my set of ethics and requirements for ethical integrity in the world, so I said no. But it's hard to be that way. It's very hard. You know, think back to middle school. It was like when you were in middle school, it was hard to be different than everybody else, right? Hard. So let's talk a little bit about startups. Are startups the virtual future? How many of you would love to be in a startup for your first job? Let me see hands. Only a few of you. Okay. How many of you have had the thought, seriously, not just a flat passing thought, wouldn't it be great if you could get a job in a startup and you'd be like employee number 12 and then the startup would go public and then you'd make a fortune? How many of you? Oh, more hands than I said. How many want to be in a startup, including some of the faculty? I love it. Okay, so It's not going to happen. It's a lottery game. You got to be in the right place at the right time with the right sequence of events, and yeah, you can do it. People do it, right? Some people have made a lot of money because they were in that company that went public and they had stock and they converted it. You can't count on that. That's not a reason to go to work at a company. Certainly not at a startup. There are reasons to go to work at a startup. So get rich quick? No. That's not a good reason. It might happen for you, and I hope it happens for all of you, but don't go there for that reason. You can go for a different kind of fun. You can go to a startup because the environment's different, because the demands on you will be different, because you'll be exposed to different things and have more variety. When you're in a big company, everything gets very tunnel visioned. You will get a very narrow responsibility, and you won't get a chance to do a lot of stuff. If you get to a startup, this is probably also true for small entrepreneurs. There are a lot of small entrepreneurial companies that have been around for a long time. They're not startups in the true sense. A startup is a tech term. Startups tend to be of technical nature. They tend to be app developers or SaaS service providers or things like that. And it's also true of small entrepreneurial companies where you will get a chance to do everything, including take out the garbage. You know, everybody pitches in and does everything. And you'll learn a lot of things in that kind of an environment you wouldn't learn in a big company. But guess what? In order to work in those kinds of environments, you need to be willing to take chances. It's much safer to take a job in a big company. You'll get all kinds of benefits. You might get stock options. You'll get predictability. You'll get lots of holidays, all that kind of stuff that comes with big company jobs. But you will give up some of the flexibility, the freedom, and the exposure that you get in a smaller one. So let's talk about a startup. It's a company called Enkibe, which is a client of mine. So this is the full disclosure part. They pay me. I work for them. They're a client of mine. I happen to love their product, and I think it's brilliant. And I'm also working with the college on a relationship with the Enkibe company that would support students being able to use the tool and also support professors being able to use it for research. So I have a selfish interest here. You should know that before I start. Separate from that, I believe very strongly in what it is. It's a great startup environment. The company was started by two founders. They've been in business a couple of years. They currently have, when they started, there were 2 employees and a few programmers in India that they occasionally paid by the hour when the code needed to be changed. It's a SaaS software company. Anybody not know what a SaaS company is? Okay, SaaS. S-A-A-S. Usually the 2 S's are capitalized. I don't know why, but they usually are. And it stands for Software as a Service. You probably use Software as a Service. It's when the solution lives in the cloud. You don't download an application to your computer. So if you have a service that you use where you open a browser and you go to it and it does calculate, Microsoft has a cloud service, that's SaaS. All those kinds of companies. Enkibe is a SaaS company. It was started with 2 employees a little over 2 years ago, and the programmers in India, they are 2 years in, they still have 2 employees and the programmers in India. They have done it on family and friends money called Seed Startup, and they built a great little company. And they are now, literally by chance, having nothing to do with me being here, by chance, this week and last week have started going out for what's called a Series A round of funding, where they're raising a lot of money, and there's a lot of people interested in investing in their company so that they can expand it. And anybody that goes to work for them, once they get their money, is going to have a lot of fun, and they're going to have to do a lot of different things because it's not a big structured company, but it's a great opportunity. So what is it? It's a company that provides an ability to work in the world of authors on the internet. Originally created specifically for professionals in the PR world, it was an opportunity to go out and find people who are writing about the thing that you're interested in. So if you're interested in your product, who's writing about my product? If you're interested in a point of view or a specific issue or even a keyword, you could put it into the search box in Enkibe, and Enkibe would tell you who the people are that are writing about it and what they're saying. Enkibe might deliver a list, as will Google, a list of all the people who are writing the most about airplane engines, and all I've got is a list of people who are doing a lot of writing. I don't know who these people are. I don't know how effective they are. I don't know anything about them. Remember earlier I said relevance? How important relevance is? One of the things you get with an Enkibe return is a relevance rating. So if you get 500 people who are writing about aircraft engines, and let's arbitrarily say there are 10 that have far and away let's take a bigger number. Let's say 50 that far and away than the other 450 have a lot of stuff out there. They've written a lot of stuff. Who do you contact? Who do you know is the right person to talk to? You're going to go after all 50 of them? By the way, the one who's at the top of the list who has the most articles out there, maybe that person is not very good at what they do. How would you know? You like their articles. So you get the relevancy ranking, and the relevancy ranking says that person at the top of the list has 3 followers. You know, maybe it's his mother and his girlfriend and his cousin, I don't know. But he's not making an impact in the marketplace. But some of the other people in that list of 50, they've got thousands of followers. And if you look at the rest of the rankings, the rest of the relevance information, you find out that people are retweeting or repeating or quoting that person, that there's a positive conversation going out. Those are the people you want, that you want to talk to. You want them as brand advocates. If you're in the advertising and marketing business, if you're in the PR business, you want them as reviewers. You want them for all kinds of reasons. So having relevance and having that ranking is important. And then going forward with this new round of funding, what they're going to do is they're going to go after all writers. So that as a writer has the information out there and is being tracked, not only can you as a professional go in and find the writer, but the writer can go into the tool as well from a different direction with a different license, and they can find everything they want to know about their writing. So if over the years they've written hundreds or thousands or whatever of pieces, they can find out who's acting on their stuff, who's reading their stuff, what are people saying about their stuff, so it cuts both ways. Then they are also adding a workspace. It's a marketplace. It's the next thing, by the way, in my opinion, that's coming after social media. It's a social marketplace. It's very cute. You can smile. In Enkibe, it's called a hive. So in an Enkibe hive, there will be one about aircraft engines, and there might be one about bourbon, you know, or whatever other thing you might be interested in, or model plane building, or movies, or whatever it might be. There'll be a hive for each of those things, and all the people who are interested in those subjects, writing about those subjects, learning about those subjects, everybody from the one guy who's just curious, who has no professional interest, to the people who are getting paid to do big stuff, to everybody else, they're all in this one place communicating with each other. And there's a subset of the hive so that you can talk to other people you work with within your company or elsewhere, and you can share with them, and you can take action together, and you can all see the same results at the same time in the same way. And then you can act on the next thing you get, which is an ROI response. So you can learn the return on the investment of time and money you're putting into this. So personally, I think it's a very good example of the startup life. So there's a lot of risk in the startup world. There's a lot of fun in the startup world. There's a lot of excitement in the startup world. And it's something that you might want to consider, but you got to balance it back again against what turns you on. What do you want? How do you want to spend your work life? Yeah, you know, you got to have money for the rent. You got to have money for food. You got to have money for a date. You got to have money to go on a vacation. All that stuff, it's the way our world works, right? One of the science fiction stories I just read, and I read it because it was on Mark Zuckerberg's list. Nobody needs anything. Everything is provided to everybody for everything. It's a wild concept. But that's not the way our world works, right? So, yes, you need those things. But in the process of getting those things, in the process of getting those things, what you want to do is have fun. Be nurtured. Be doing the thing that you enjoy. You might as well. And if you got to give up a little bit now in order to do that, because you'll have plenty of time later in life to make it work. So my advice, real fast, and then we'll take questions. Be genuine. Be yourself. Don't act the way you think you need to act to please someone else. Start building your reputation today, your personal brand. Yes, you have a personal. How many of you are aware that you have a personal brand? How many of you are not? That would be ironic if you raise your hand, wouldn't it? Okay, so build your brand, your personal brand. Everything you put out on the, you know this, your parents probably tell you. Everything you put out on the web, everything you write, everything you do, every time you talk to someone, this is part of my personal brand. You're all going to leave here with an impression of me. That's part of my personal brand. Everything you do makes an impression on the universe. Be conscious of it and be working on it and stay true to yourself as you do it. Start building relationships and contacts today. If you look around the room, there are people in this room today that might be sitting next to you in a job in 5 or 10 years. Those very same people in 5 or 10 years might be interviewing you for a job. Those very same people in 5 or 10 years might be an applicant that you're interviewing for a job. And those very same people in 5 or 10 years might be your boss, or they might be your client. Or they might be working at a competing agency and you need help. And because you built a relationship with them, you can pick up the phone and say, I know you're an expert in this. I need some help. Can you help me? But you are not a stranger who they never heard of calling. There's somebody that you know, that you met. I'm having lunch tomorrow, Wednesday, in Atlanta with a guy I went to school with here in 1965 because I keep the relationship up because he called me and asked me for help one day, and someday I may call him and ask him for help. Now, I would argue that you should never do that with somebody you don't like. And I'm not saying sell out. But you know, if you've got an affinity with someone, build the relationship. You never know when you can help someone or when they can help you. Ignore the tendency to be inner focused. Think about the other person, not yourself. This is the hardest thing to say to this particular group, age group that you fit in. But I'm going to say it anyway. Here's another list. You can read these things. You can pay attention to them. I tell you, think about what the other person needs and make a contribution. That is the most direct way to success. The 4 most important things to remember from all of this: what you do is much less important than how you do it. It makes an impression on you, whether you realize it or not, and on everybody around you and on the world. Operate with integrity. Don't sell out. Stay true to yourself. Change is good. Did I say anything about me and my wife? Was that the other? That was the other thing I said. My wife wakes up in the morning, and first thing she says is, "What can I do different?" I wake up in the morning, I look at my phone, and it says my lunch was canceled, my whole day's shot. Because I get like so set in my way, and I'm ready, and she will look at me and she'll say, "Change is good. It's an opportunity. Take advantage of it." And I'm challenging you with that. I have had to learn the hard way because my instinct most of my life was to avoid change and have fun. So 4 very important things to remember. Oops, I forgot one. Okay. The most important thing is you're the future of this industry. Be bold. You will make those changes happen going forward. The things I talk about, whether they're taking advantage of artificial intelligence, or whether they're new ways, or whether they're new companies, or whether you come up with the idea for the next startup, it's you. You're the ones that are going to do it. I'm probably not going to do it. I'm probably not going to create a startup tomorrow. I'm not unwilling to do that because I try to live by what I'm telling you, but you have so many opportunities. Be aware that you can create the future. You don't have to be the effect of it. So, questions? How'd I do? Time, okay?
Got time for a couple questions?
Anybody? Yes?
What is your response to the recent challenge in mobile advertisement where iPhones allowed adware to be downloaded?
I was asked about my reaction to the, it's actually, I'm going to reword your question if you don't mind. It's about adware blocking. It's about ad blocking. So how many of you have ad blockers on your computer, not your phone, on your computer? Raise your hand. A lot of you. How many of you have ad blockers on your phone? Interesting. So the issue that we're talking about here is that iPhone recently announced that they're allowing ad blocking on the iPhone. And the issue is reflective of how do we pay for the things that we have. We either write a check and buy it, or we get it free and we subject ourselves to some kind of a commercial message or some kind of an exploitation. They'll use our email address or something like that. In this particular case, there has been a major explosion in people using ad blockers. And last week, one of the manufacturers of an ad blocker application withdrew it. Are you aware of this? Withdrew it from the iStore? I don't use an iPhone. What's it called? The iStore? App Store. Thank you. I use Android. But so he withdrew his app. He took it out because he felt in the midst of this controversy about all these people blocking ads and therefore getting their information free without paying the people who are paying for it by looking at their ads. He took it off the App Store so that you can't download it anymore. Why did he do that? Because he felt it was unfair to the advertisers. But guess what? You remember the slide a whole bunch of ways ago where I said people like you are taking control? You don't want to see those ads, so you're doing ad blockers. And why don't you want to see the ads? I'll tell you why you don't want to see the ads. You don't want to see the ads because they do more than just intrude. They do intrude, but they intrude. They put tons of trackers on you. They put cookies in your browser. They push up ads to you when you're in something totally different that's unrelated, and you know that they got, and it's creepy. You know they got it 2 days ago when you were in this other place, right? So there's and your privacy is threatened. So you feel all this stuff, so you put up an ad blocker, keep that stuff away from me. In the end, in theory, if the people who are paying for that stuff to be delivered to you aren't making some kind of a benefit, that stuff could theoretically go away. So somehow there's going to be a solution. I don't think it's a question of ethics. I think it's a question of practicality. I think we, all of us, should have the right to block anything that's legally blockable. I shouldn't have the right to block something if there's a law against it, but there's no law against blocking ads, and the apps come out and they allow us to do that, so we should do that. But we have to recognize the consequences. The consequences are that they're either going to sneak it into us somewhere, somehow, or we're going to lose that content. Does that answer your question? Another question. Yeah?
What do you think about finding a job in the film industry with an advertising degree?
In the film industry with what? What was it?
Advertising degree.
With an advertising degree. So that's a great question, right? The question was, what do I think about finding a job in the film industry with an advertising degree? So I'm laughing because I had a corporate finance degree from the University of Georgia, and I spent many years as a filmmaker. And I won an Emmy. And if you had told me that I would end up at a digital agency, as I said earlier, I wouldn't have believed you. And if you had told me back then when I was here that I'd end up as an Emmy-winning filmmaker, I'd say, no way, what do I know about filmmaking? So the answer to the question is critical to the message I gave you earlier, which is don't restrict yourself to what's working today. Get your degree, Whatever it is, learn the things you learn, and then go find a way to do the thing you want to do that will nurture you and that you'll have fun at and that will support your goals in life. And if there is no law that says if you have an advertising degree, you can't get a job in filmmaking. Now, if you want to be a film editor and you don't know how to edit film, you're going to have trouble. But the fact that you want a job as a film editor, if you learn how to edit film as an apprentice and then maybe take some courses and whatever else, nobody's going to say we're not going to hire you because you have an advertising degree. So it's not going to happen. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of people in the film business, me and my partner included at that time, who made a living and built a company selling commercial film to corporations before we started to make a documentary that won an Emmy and some other things. So there's no restrictions on you guys. Take the skills you get and make the most of them, however you do that. You got an ad degree and you want to go in filmmaking? Go in filmmaking. How do you go in filmmaking? You find out what does it take. Also find out who do you know and take advantage of your connections. Do the research and go for it. Don't restrict yourself based on the past. Don't drive your life based on the rear view, what you see in the rear view mirror. It's not productive. Anybody else? Yes.
One last question. Yeah.
How did your daughter get to the point she's at? She gets to travel.
Well, I don't pay for it. She does. We don't give her a nickel. She just decides. First of all, she loves to travel. She's very international. She speaks multiple languages. She went to the international school in New York, and she knows people in all kinds of countries. And she's never happier than when she has an airplane ticket in her jeans pocket. And if she just decided that that's what she wants to do. And so she didn't let it limit her. And she can't, a lot of people think we're bad parents because we don't force her to do stuff. We're not those people that David was talking about, that force their child to study something. We're not doing that. We're letting her do her own thing. As long as she doesn't hurt herself, we're all for it. So she comes home and says, I'm going to go do this. We say, great, go for it. How can we help? Without money. But how can we help? But she pays for it. She gets jobs. And she takes her clients with her. She says, it doesn't matter where I am as long as I have Wi-Fi. Because she gets a client, sends her, and she happens to write, she didn't major in marketing, but she writes marketing stuff a lot. That's what pays most of the bills. She writes blogs and she writes email copy and all kinds of stuff like that. I don't know how she got there. That's what she wanted. She said to us that's what she wanted, and she went to get it. She's probably heard me talk I didn't just start talking like this last week. So I live my life like this, and she's heard me say, go for it, whatever it is that you want. Like people say, anybody can be president of the United States. Well, there are some limits. You certainly can't go to the top of the Empire State Building and jump off and fly. That won't work. There are some things you can't do. But go for it. See what works. Take a chance. Be willing to fail. If you can fail, if you're willing to fail, you can succeed.